Welcome to a quick look at the bizarre history behind human innovation.
Some ideas take a lot of grit and proper corporate alignment to achieve. Synergy. Why do we put ourselves through this? Let's look at history.
Back in medieval times, walking down the street was a constant risk.
Danger could strike at any second without warning.
Every custom we practice today began as a mechanism for survival.
Back then, you couldn't even trust your neighbor with a single root vegetable. A simple wave? Absolutely not. That just means your weapon hand is hidden. But life wasn't always this straightforward or joyful in the old days. Wait, how did we get here, and what am I supposed to do with this goat?
Let me look up the exact regulations regarding these ancient trade customs. Back in medieval times, life was short, brutal, and highly unpredictable.
You always had to stay on guard against sudden attacks.
Whoa! Hey, watch out with that muscle!
Carrying a shield everywhere gets exhausting pretty quickly. So people decided to gather indoors for a drink instead.
And that is exactly how the tradition of clinking glasses was born.
Cheers to a long, healthy life shared together with great friends.
But back in medieval times, clinking glasses served a much darker purpose.
Wait, what do you mean by diagnostic? Is my drink safe?
Back then, poisoning your rivals over land or titles was incredibly common.
So to prove your drink wasn't spiked, you clinked mugs hard.
This forced the liquids to mix, meaning if I go down, you go down with me.
Why are you looking so nervous about a simple, friendly toast?
Back then, drinks weren't exactly known for their premium filtration quality.
Which is exactly why people preferred alcohol over whatever was in here.
Walking through the medieval streets wasn't exactly a clean or pleasant experience.
Better drink this instead. Much safer than whatever is on the ground.
Which brings us directly to the unexpected history of high heels.
Wait, these giant high heels are changing into wooden blocks? At least my feet are clear from this disgusting street river.
It is a long, tiring walk back home in these things.
Let us explore the surprising and fiery origins behind the concept of the curfew. In medieval towns, fires had to be carefully managed before everyone went to sleep.
Cover your fire right now! The evening bell has already rung!
Sometimes, failure to comply with basic rules brings immediate consequences.
Like losing your driving privileges, or much, much worse.
My house is on fire! Everything is burning down!
In medieval towns, an unchecked fire could easily destroy entire neighborhoods overnight.
To keep everyone safe, citizens were ordered to put out their fires before sleeping.
This evening signal to cover the fire was known as the couvre-feu. In the medieval era, sleeping safety required a whole different set of precautions.
Why does everything around here feel like a safety hazard?
Look at these roofs. One spark and the whole town goes up.
Thatched roofs provided the perfect warm nesting spots for all kinds of dirty pests.
They keep falling right into my face while I am trying to sleep.
And that is exactly why people added heavy canopy roofs to their beds.
And that is exactly why the canopy bed was invented, to keep things from falling into your sleep.
Wait! Not directly into the mouth. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid.
Now let us leap forward to look at an entirely different kind of everyday tradition.
So, to keep the pests out, they started building fabric canopies over their beds.
But wrapping yourself in thick fabrics all night created a brand new issue.
It became an absolute, unbearable human oven in there.
But sleeping in the medieval era could take a far more sinister turn.
Whoa! Why is there a literal campfire right next to my blanket? Ah! Get it away!
The nightmares are literally manifesting now.
Now this is what I call modern luxury.
Where did all this money and custom come from anyway?
Long ago, people saved their coins in clay jars called pi-G.
People saved their coins in these orange clay jars called pi-G pots. Over time, the word evolved, and potters literally shaped them like pigs.
So yeah, a total linguistic misunderstanding made our modern banks.
So, how did a clay jar turn into an actual pink pig?
An artisan took the order literally, creating a literal animal-shaped jar.
Human history is filled with fascinating traditions, born from unexpected places.
Why does tracing back human traditions have to be so ridiculously confusing?
But if we look closely at human history, everything begins with a choice of attire. Take this traditional jacket, which ties directly into how we celebrate today.
Have you ever wondered why modern formal jackets have these little buttons on the sleeve?
They seem completely decorative now, but their original purpose was far more practical.
Why would anyone put buttons where they can't even button anything?
Why on earth are these buttons even here if they don't open anything?
To find out, we have to look at medieval soldiers on the battlefield. They had a terrible habit of using their sleeves as tissues.
Wiping noses on sleeves was costing the army a fortune in uniform replacements.
So, the general ordered heavy brass buttons to be sewn right along the edge. One quick wipe, and the soldiers instantly learned their lesson.
And that is exactly why your modern suit jackets still have buttons on the sleeves.
Instead, people began carrying dedicated cloths to keep things perfectly sanitary.
Which brings us to our next major standard of measure, born in the local bakery.
If my bread count is short by even a fraction, the punishment is severe.
To ensure honesty and avoid penalties, every loaf had to be clearly marked and strictly weighed.
Because only the wealthiest elite got to consume the literal upper crust of the baking. I swear, officer, every single loaf is exactly the standard weight.
In medieval times, selling short-weight bread was a severe criminal offense.
A baker caught cheating could literally lose their hand to the law. Let us consider a quick mental exercise regarding historical solutions.
Survival in the old days required some truly creative thinking.
Every single loaf has to be perfect, or it is my head. The laws demand exact weight, but the yeast has its own unpredictable math.
Please, officer, if a single loaf is light, they will take my hand.
I must run. Into the woods, far away from the king's inspectors. First the guards, now a wolf? I just wanted to bake bread. What kind of strange magical carriage is this? Unlock the doors! Unlock the doors! Oh man, it's right behind me!
Just to be absolutely sure, I'll add one extra loaf to the batch.
Perfect! Now there is absolutely no way I can get penalized for shorting them.
And that is exactly how 13 became known as a baker's dozen. 12 loaves for the order, and one extra loaf just to be absolutely sure.
It is not just baking, it is a legal survival tactic.
And so, the baker's dozen was born out of pure, cautious relief. But navigating the hazards of history often required a more calculated approach.
Welcome to the School of Tactical Geometry,
where every angle is calculated to ensure absolute survival. Let us explore a classic custom born out of ancient necessity and survival. In dangerous times, a simple encounter on a path required immediate defense. Approaching anyone meant keeping your weapon drawn and your intentions clear. In medieval times, walking on the left side kept your sword arm ready for anyone approaching.
Wait, who is behind me?
This strategy even dictated how castles built their spiral staircases.
Ever wonder why almost all medieval castle staircases spiral clockwise going up?
It was designed purely
as a critical defensive choke point.
Defenders fighting downward had full clearance to swing their swords with their right hands. Meanwhile, an attacker climbing up would have their right arm completely blocked by the central wall.